Well, hello, my fellow friends, my fellow neighbors, and my fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here. Our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to an all new episode of the Empowered Publicity Children's Books Spotlight Series, to be precise, episode number 105. My name is Jonathan Masiulionis, the president here at Empowered Publicity. Thank you so much for spending some time with us wherever you are and wherever you may be. Our next trolley stop is progressing even further, and we are and have arrived in the month of February with World Read Aloud Day, with Valentine's Day. So we do hope that wherever you are and wherever you may be, that you are doing very well, and that your hearts, your minds, your souls are continuing to open up in the process. I'm really excited to be able to talk about one brand new children's book specifically today, but to talk about a message that really transcends any form of children's book, and that is the message of kindness. And especially with what this entire planet has been going through over the course of these past 11 months, let's be honest, we need a lot more kindness in our life right now. We need to be kinder to ourselves. We need to be kinder to one another, and thus we need to be kinder to the planet as well, too. And one of our newest neighbors is here to help us remember that if your life is feeling dark, if you're feeling lonely, depressed, sad, if it may look like that proverbial divine storm that you're experiencing as of right now, that you can share some kindness and that you can bring some light into your life at this particular point in time and the lives of those that you love and care about. And yes, kindness is a gift that comes from the heart. Kindness is also a gift that's found in one of our favorite brand new children's books, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Simon Kids. The brand new release, Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. It is now available. You can head on over to Amazon.com. While there, feel free to leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so for Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. You can also head on over to the official website of our featured guest here on episode number 105 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You can head on over to Apryl Stott design.com. You can also continue the conversation with Apryl on social media via her social media platforms, which we have included in the description below. And of course, if you feel that this message is going to be helping and inspiring you and bring some hope and healing into your life, we encourage you to subscribe to Empowered Publicity's YouTube channel and to share this message of share some kindness, bring some light. Again, our featured guest here on episode number 105 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. The trolley goes down from San Diego all the way to Reno, Nevada. Apryl Stott joining us here on the program. Apryl, we really appreciate your free time and helping us to kick off the month of February on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. How are things with you today?
Good, and thank you so much for this opportunity, Jonathan.
Oh, you're most certainly welcome. As we were talking in the Empowered Publicity Green Room, I happened to get a little bit of a birdie that had told me about your book before that it was published, but I came across your book. I had a beautiful experience at the Barnes & Noble in San Diego shortly after I moved out here. And I saw your book, and it was just like, there was so much wonderful light that was coming into my life with this move to San Diego, and learning to be even kinder to myself and kinder to other people. So I'm just so glad that this connection has, come full circle from seeing your book inside Barnes and Noble. The message of kindness is something very simple. And I think that there's a lot of things that we've tended to have made more complex than what they need to be. So we'll definitely talk so much about kindness, but to be able to get into your backstory, because there are our friends and neighbors, our listeners and viewers who are learning about your work for the first time, could you share with us, first things first, where how everything came to be with your work as a children's author, and when this specific vision was planted in your mind and your heart where you knew that you had to share this message at this particular point in time? Could you talk to our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, about those two things if you could?
Sure, and that's a really good question. Ever since I was little, I'm one of those annoying people who always knew what they wanted to do when they grew up. And the problem is that I had this plan and it wasn't quite working out. So I got my degree in illustration, and I was lucky enough to do an internship at HarperCollins. And then I finished that, and I was like, okay, so now what? Right. And it turns out that this is kind of a hard industry to break into. So I, I was trained as an illustrator, even though I've always loved stories and I've always loved reading. And so I started working freelance illustration. And my emphasis, what I wanted to do was kids stuff, but it didn't always work out that way. And, you need to get paid. So I was working as an illustrator, and then I got this great agent, Maggie Byers Frenzels from the Maggie Byers Frenzels agency. And she helped me take my um, illustrations to the next level. And then I really wanted to get into picture books. And so it had been about 20 years of me working towards this goal. And I did an internship. I did a mentorship program through SCBWI, and Hazel Mitchell, who is wonderful. She was my mentor and she helped me so much. So we got to this point and I had put all of this effort and all this time in, and I was thinking, maybe after 20 years, if nothing is happening, maybe this isn't my path. Maybe I should do something else. So I decided every year I would send a holiday card. And I decided, okay, I'm just going to really go in on this holiday card. And rather than try and please someone else, I'm going to think about what I would want to see on the holiday card. So I actually have a copy of it right here. So it's a little bit bent and old, but this is what I sent out. And Catherine from Simon & Schuster, who became my editor, she sent an email to Maggie and she's like, I love this picture. Is there a story that goes along with that? And I was like, there will be. And I was like, give me a couple weeks. And it took longer than a couple weeks, but it all came together and it just all fell into place. It was like working and working and working until it fell into place just so perfectly and magically. Like I could not have asked for it to have turned out better.
Now, to be able to elaborate further, what some of our listeners and viewers and our friends and neighbors may know, some may not, is that from when a book has its original idea, so to speak, it takes time to come to form and shape, especially if you're published through one of the larger publishing houses. So more than likely, you probably didn't know that we would be moving through what, is referred to as COVID, the pandemic. Some people, can call it the Great Pause. There's different terminologies that people have obviously used. Take us through, if you could, especially the lead-in to when this book was coming out, because the world was getting to a very interesting place. I personally feel that this whole COVID thing just didn't happen overnight. That, many of us were very hard on ourselves. We were always focused on the bottom line. It's interesting because I feel that, and I don't speak on behalf of being a parent just yet, many parents would even say, I want to spend more time with their kid, with my kids. But yet they would do things to prevent themselves from spending time with their kids, the extra 2 hours at work or going out with your friends and things of that nature. And it seems like we needed something to slow us down, to remind us of the important things in life, and to just start off by being kinder with ourselves. So the book came out at the end of October. Could you take us, in I guess Doc Emmett L. Brown's Wayback Machine? Let's hop on the children's book spotlight series DeLorean, so to speak, to go back to about a year ago when all of this was happening, and how this was really inspiring you even more so to share this message leading into the holiday season and especially throughout 2021.
Well, that's kind of why it feels so kismet and magical, is because I actually did all of the work for this book before 2020 even started. I had everything turned in, and we had delayed the release until 2020. So just to kind of give it its best shot. It was originally going to come out in the summer, or in the spring, but Catherine wisely suggested that we push the date out. So the work had already been done. It's more that the space was there. I think you're exactly right. We kind of all had a pretty rough year and kind of thought about what is most important to us. And I think there was space for a book like this that's maybe a little quieter. It's not super flashy. So it just, I'm really glad that it all worked out this way. At one point when I was writing it, because even though I love books so much, I'm definitely more comfortable with the art part than I am with writing. And so my editor is so helpful in just really helping me kind of strip away things and see what's most important. And at one point she asked, is this a story about friendship? And there are lots of really, really great stories about friendship. And I think that's a really important topic. But I said, I think this is a story about kindness. I think that's what I want the story to focus on. So um, she was able to help guide me to realize what the message was that I wanted to share, and then it just worked out that it was something we really needed in 2020. So
As things always do have a way of working themselves out. And it's just another friendly reminder for our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, if you're moving through something that might be a little bit challenging as of right now, that this too shall pass, and that there's always something greater that's very much on the other side. You also seem to kind of strike the jackpot to a certain extent, because you are both a children's illustrator and a children's author. So, sometimes when an author is putting out the book, whether it be if you're self-published or published, if you're self-published, sometimes, you can choose the illustrator that you want to have be a part of it. There's this great synergy that's in place right off the bat. When you're published with a larger publishing company, it's kind of like that the publisher arranges the puzzle pieces and, blends the best alignment together. You happen to be 2-in-1, so to speak. So there probably was, this is maybe just my assumption, you can hopefully clarify this, that there wasn't necessarily as much stress on yourself, or was there acknowledging the fact that it's like, okay, there's kind of like two different forms that you have to incorporate, two different parts of your brain. There's the illustrator portion, there's the author portion. Could you share with us exactly how everything came to be in terms of the alignment, and how you were really able to stay focused and to stay on task to really have this message come out in the way in which that you wanted it to be shared? So it wasn't like the illustrator part of the brain that was driving you, or the author part that was just driving you. It was just everything was fully aligned and fully balanced, creating this wonderful overall finished product for the kids.
well, it's interesting that you say that, and you are completely correct. For any prospective authors who want to get their books published, unless you are planning on illustrating it, don't worry about finding an illustrator if you are looking to be published by an established publisher, a traditional publisher. And as far as my process goes, I did know who the basic characters were. I knew about what they looked like. We ended up changing some of them because the final image, the final book, we lost the fox. He just didn't fit in. So we wanted the energy between the two friends dealing with a problem. So it was really handy because I knew what the characters looked like, and I kind of knew what I wanted their spirit to be. That Coco's a little more boisterous, and that Bear is really, a gentle giant. So it was helpful for me as I was writing the book, and just thinking, like, on this page I can show this dilemma this way without having to put it into words. So it did give me a lot more freedom to just say, like, I know how I can tell this through the image and through the words. That was really, it was nice. But I do have to say, I did have to have all of the words figured out first before I could get too far. There were a few key illustrations that I kind of had in my head, and I can show you a couple of them if you want. But I kind of knew that I wanted to have this spread of Coco and Bear in Bear's cave, and I kind of wanted to do what I call the drone forest shot. Because I think sometimes we're really in our problems, and this is like the crux of the hurt feelings. And I think sometimes, we feel really bogged down by the things that are troubling us. And I wanted to show a shot that was kind of above all that. So you can see the kind of heartbreaking that they've given up on trying to be kind with their gifts, and they've just left them aside. But the story's about to take a turn. So there were a couple images I knew that I wanted to include, but it wasn't until I got the manuscript kind of nailed down that I felt free to explore the art side of it.
Such a beautiful bond of love and trust that's established between Coco and Bear. Now, again, when you think of two friends, you might not necessarily think of like a little girl and a bear. And when you think of a bear, you can think of, the grizzly bear, or one that's very angry or is going to tear your head off. And bear is the complete antithesis of this. Like bear, as you said, is this gentle giant, very lovable in the process. But, one of the things that bear experiences throughout the course of the journey is that, as I'd alluded to, all of his other fellow forest friends think that he's mean, without necessarily giving everything away, because we do want to encourage our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, to be able to purchase their copy of Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. Could you take us through the story and talk to us about this bond between Coco and Bear, and really how Bear really remembers that, it's okay to trust the process, that, even though if someone has a misconception of you, that, eventually people can and will see your heart if you believe that to be true.
Yes. So I guess I want to start by saying this is a very simple story. My audience for this, when I was kind of envisioning what kids would be reading this story, I was thinking for kids, maybe kindergarten, maybe pre-kindergarten. So like 4 to 7, about that age range. So it's a fairly simple story. But you're right. I wanted to kind of hit on some deeper things. I think everybody, no matter what our lives are like, I think we all know what it's like to feel misunderstood, or to feel like people are maybe noticing the things that that we don't want to be defined by. And so I kind of wanted to show also, it's really easy to be kind when people are being kind back to you. It's a lot harder. People make it so hard to be kind sometimes. So I wanted to show that, life isn't always perfect or easy, but that doesn't mean that we need to react with injustice if injustice is meted out to us. So I wanted to show that Coco and Bear, like I didn't want it to be super easy for them. Like that writing advice, like figure out what your characters want the most and then make it really hard for them to get it. So I wanted them to struggle, and I wanted to show their personalities, that they were kind of dealing with the rejection and a little bit, and also acknowledge that it's okay to be sad if things aren't working out. It's okay. It's okay to put things away for a day and try again tomorrow, or even longer if you need to just heal a little bit. So I wanted to just show them as, with their personalities going through something tough together. So.
And just the way in which you were able to capture the emotion of Bear. One of my favorite illustrations was just this super close up, and it looks like that he has his paw on his chin, and he's just like thinking, but at the same point in time, you can look in his eyes and he's just very emotional. And I think that, especially being able to, this book does a great job of helping kids to be able to express their emotions and feel their feelings. I know that, one of the older paradigms for us, I happen to be turning 40, oh my heavens, in August, even though I feel much younger than that, is that the old paradigm was stuff down your emotions, suppress your feelings. If you're sad, lock it down. If you're angry, shut it down, right? Because, heavens forbid, we express how we're feeling. And I think that, the importance of the message of bringing some light. I want to talk about that as well. I'm not sure if you remember the wonderful folk group, Peter, Paul, and Mary. They had a holiday concert in New York City. It was played for many years on PBS after it originally aired. But there's this song that they have called Light One Candle. And I get chills still talking about this, because there's this little boy that comes in with a candle, and he's helping to light the other kids' candles, and they're all singing together. It's this beautiful song. I'm getting a lot of goosebumps talking about this, but we all have light. We all have skills, gifts, talents. I believe that we all have our own soul signature. And there's many of us, especially over this past year, that have felt challenged to either suppress our gifts, to dim our light. Some people who are really going through some extreme challenges may feel it's not even worth being here. And that's something that, whether you are a kid or whether you are nurturing your inner child, you're reparenting your inner child, I think it's so important to be able to share that message. Could you talk to us about the synergy? Because you talk about kindness, but you talk about light as well in your book. Could you really share how they're very much not only just both needed, but how there's this, how you really can't have one without the other, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it totally. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about also, when I was first thinking about this book, it's something that I had been thinking about, like, how do we, I'm stumbling over my words, sorry, because it's a big concept I'm trying to put into words right now. But there's so many kids, especially in a few years, these 6-year-olds are going to be a little bit older, and there's just like this, I call it like a mental health plague. I mean, we're kind of having, the COVID right now, but a parallel one that's also happening. And sorry, that's embarrassing. Sorry, I'm going to swallow really quick.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So I was thinking, like, if I could like tell these kids, like, what's going to help you really feel better? Sorry, I need to collect myself.
That's okay.
What really makes you feel better is when you kind of like take the focus off yourself. I mean, well, of course we need to protect ourselves and have boundaries. That's totally acceptable and normal and healthy. But when you take some of that like hyper focus off of what you're going through and start thinking about what other people are going through. I mean, there's like scientific studies that talk about how one of the best things that we can do for our kids is have them do service and like serve in their community, like serving a stranger, serving someone that they don't know, that's not in their bubble. And it's so important. Like it just I think that it's really easy, especially right now when we're all at home and we're cut up off from these really important social connections, because we're so lucky and so lucky to have Zoom and text and all of that, but it's not the same as being in the same physical space as people. And also we get to choose the people that we're connected to right now. We're not forced to interact with people that are different than us or that think differently than us. Everything is very curated. Even our entertainment and our news is very curated, and we really need everyone. And kind of the best way I think to feel connected to someone is to understand their story as much as you can. We can never really understand where someone else is coming from, but to serve someone, if there's someone that you like, you just don't understand, if you just do something nice for them, it really helps us just as much as it helps other people.
And as you're sharing right now, and as your book beautifully shares, is that really kindness is a gift that comes from the heart. That we always, especially around the holidays, or even just at any given point in time of the year, it's like, well, I want to buy the right gift, right? And I want to make sure that it costs a good amount too, so that person knows how much I care. And just the simplest, like this is, I had the long story short about kind of what was the before chapter of my life. I took life way too darn seriously, Apryl. And so like when I first read your book fully from cover to cover, when I was at Barnes and Noble, I'm just like, life can be enjoyable. And like I was starting to learn that more and more, right? But like it's a very simplistic nature. Like again, us as adults, we tend to overcomplicate things. We want to tend to reinvent the wheel and just leave it again to our children and leave it to a brand new children's book to help show us the way, to help us remember to share some kindness, bring some light. Again, those of you who are just joining in, thank you for spending some time with us here for this week's Trolley Stop, episode number 105 of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight Series. Our featured guest, Apryl Stott, children's author and illustrator, joining us. We are sharing Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Simon Kids. We encourage you, if you already haven't done so, to head on over to April's official website, shared in the description below at aprylstottdesign.com. You can also head on over to amazon.com as well too, if that's your online vehicle of choice. And while there, feel free to leave a 5-star review for Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light, as that is one of the many ways that you can support Apryl, along with other fellow children's authors and illustrators across the country and around the world. I've just, the other characters in the book as well too, like let's not forget to give some love to some of the other characters as well too. I'm starting to have a little bit of a greater connection with nature. It's interesting because I always, and I say this in all sincerity, even though it's kind of a joke. At the same point, I literally feel the closest to God that I ever have. Being in San Diego, you're closer to the ocean and, beautiful nature. The weather's nicer than it is out in Buffalo. But I know that one of my favorite illustrations, one of my favorite characters in the book was the baby deer. And the baby deer needed to have some support because, she was stuck in the snow. And this is where, Bear was able to, step into his gifts. And this, as the result of the experience in helping to save the baby deer, was able to help his fellow forest friends realize that he's not this bad guy after all, that he is really kind and caring and compassionate. Could you share this a little bit about the importance of blending in these other animal friends to be able to provide an additional even greater heart and energy into the flow of your book overall?
Yes, absolutely. So I feel like we all want to think that we are like Coco and Bear and that, we're the ones making the right choices the whole time. But sometimes we're the ones who go off in the forest and get lost. Or we're the ones who someone's trying to like share something with us and we're like, no. I mean, even, at one point they try and share something with the rabbit. And I mean, honestly, I can really understand what the rabbit's going through. The rabbit's like, why are you doing this? Like, so I kind of wanted to show that sometimes we all make the mistake of being human and we make mistakes. And that the great news is that as long as we're living, then we have the chance to right our mistakes and try and do better and learn from them.
That's very true. And again, there's other characters, just to mention. There's the rabbit, there's the hedgehog, there's the skunk. And again, not to give away the whole entire story, but the animals come together at the very end. There's no longer this separateness. There's no longer this division. It's interesting because I'm just kind of feeling into the energy of your book. And I kind of feel that that's kind of like a little bit of a representation of how the past 11 months have gone, right? I was just talking with a dear friend of mine before we began our interview, and we were talking about how I found myself in the grocery store every now and again, and I'll see how sometimes you'd have 4 or 5 people in the same aisle, right? And now it's just you might have one person, and then, if you have to kind of walk beside the person, the other person might kind of take a U-turn and go to the next aisle just because, there's this fear of catching COVID that's been in place, right? Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of fear-based negativity projection that's been out there very thick for the past 11 months. And this visual of everyone coming together, I feel that we've been able to see that in the way in which we've seen it. We've been seeing people come together, raise money, raise awareness for, different sorts of organizations. But I really do believe that the time will come very soon where we're all together physically, not necessarily from a distance, and we're all kind of like, Coco and Bear and the rest of the animals in the process. One of the things that we really love to talk about here on the program, Apryl, is that, we're all, one of my favorite expressions is that we're all works of art, but yet we're all works in progress. And I think you can probably resonate with that because you're also an artist, obviously, on your end of things as well, too. This being the first published book that you've obviously had with Simon Kids, we're all human. We can go through those fears and doubts and insecurities and challenges and obstacles and problems. There's no doubt that you might have experienced some of those in the creation and in the sharing of this book and your message. Could you talk to us a little bit about, some of the challenges, the obstacles, the problems that you would experience, those that come to mind, and how you were able to move through those to get through to the other side, if you could.
Um, so, in which way? I'm sorry, can you clarify the question?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of when it came to putting this, writing this book, sometimes authors will experience writer's block. Some authors, the book, it'll come out just like that. I wrote this book in, one day or 1 week. And for some authors, it's like it takes them 6 years to write their first children's book because they have to go through their own darkness, so to speak.
Got it.
That may necessarily be a challenge. Sometimes people have a fear of rejection growing up. So what if what if no one buys it, kind of thing. So could you elaborate on, however that necessarily speaks to your heart on your end of things in terms of the obstacles and the challenges that you may have experienced and how you're able to move through those to get through to the other side?
Sure, thank you. So I would say I feel like the first 20 years of me working on this goal was was a great opportunity to work through a lot of those obstacles. Once things kind of fell into place and I got the opportunity to work with Catherine, um, and she was helping guide me. Um, the actual writing of the book, when I wrote the first draft, maybe took a couple weeks, but it was the revising and the revising and the revising. And that happens to me a lot in my art also. I will, I'll get in fact, I'm finishing up some illustrations for a magazine today, and I'll get the illustrations almost to the end. And then I call it like my finishing day, where I just have to sit and do all the little tweaks and all the little things and get it to the point where it needs to be.
I love that. The finishing day. I love that.
Yeah, in my head, that's how I frame it, because man, there's nothing like a deadline to get things done. And when I had this book, I did have the deadline, which is a great motivator. But in my head, when I'm working on, because I mean, you can just work something and rework it until you snuff all the magic out of it. And there's my favorite proverb is this Egyptian proverb, and it said, "A beautiful thing is never perfect," because I think sometimes we beat ourselves up trying to get to this perfect spot, to make this perfect thing, to say all the things. And there's everything that we make is going to be flawed because we're flawed, we're human. And that doesn't mean that we're not beautiful and we can't make beautiful things. So I think kind of realizing that everything that we make is never, it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't mean we don't try or that we don't do our best or we're not willing to be humble and revise and take criticism. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to be perfect. So
for those that are tuning in and watching that are going through some kind of a challenge, and they may find it challenging to be kind, which I know, at our core, right, we all want to be loved and appreciated and accepted. Simultaneously, when we're going through pain, hurt, rejection, trauma, whatever you want to call it, those simple things can become virtually impossible, right? Mm-hmm. What would be some words of advice that you would share to those that are feeling challenged to be kind to themselves that can help them reconnect to their inner light?
So first, I would say, if you are feeling challenged by kindness, you are not alone. I think that is very universal. We all feel challenged by kindness sometimes. Like we said before, it's people make it really hard to be kind sometimes. So I think not being too hard on ourselves, but I think something that really helps us understand, Brene Brown said this thing that I just love. Sometimes people do things and you're just like, why would you do that? That's so mean, or that's so rude. And if we just consider that everyone's doing the best that they can with what they have, and maybe what they have, they can't do any better today. That has really helped me. Also, I know that learning people's stories is really helpful. I feel like we don't get the opportunity to kind of share stories with as many people right now, unless we're I mean, it's just a select group of people that we're all around right now. But when we get the chance to be together with people that you aren't together with every day, and you just ask stories, it helps us really see life through another person's eyes, and I think that it builds empathy. So.
I think that that's a very important way to be able to look at things. We're beginning to wind down our time with our featured guest here on this week's Trolley Stop here at Empowered Publicity, episode number 105 of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight Series. Children's author and illustrator Apryl Stott is joining us to share her brand new release, Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light, now available courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Simon Kids. You can head on over to Apryl's official website at aprylstottdesign.com. We have that in the description below, along with the social media platforms for Apryl, both on Facebook and Instagram, so you can continue to keep the wonderful energy flowing from this conversation moving forth from here. If you head on over to Amazon and you wish to purchase your copy of Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light for yourself, or heck, for the inner child in you. As I said, I was at Barnes & Noble's just a few weeks ago, and I read this book from cover to cover in one sitting. I wanted to nurture the inner child within myself. We encourage you to do so as well, too, at Amazon.com. While you are there, you can leave your 5-star review if you feel guided to do so as well, or to pull a little Barnes & Noble, right? Just, go to the children's book section, find the book, take 10 minutes, read it just like I did, right? It felt so much better after I read this book. And I do have to say this as well, because I have a deep, profound connection with my grandmother, Apryl. She's my guardian angel. She had passed away nearly almost 8 years ago now. And so it's interesting, when I saw how, Coco's grandmother had shared with her sage advice. Our grandmothers, they always have the sage advice, right? That again, when life gets dark as winter's night, share some kindness, bring some light. I'm like, that's something that Babcia would say. Babcia, of course, Polish for grandmother, and part Polish, part Lithuanian. So we'd call, Babcia and Jaja, grandmother and grandfather. I think that even the way in which we have viewed kindness has changed. There's a lot of things that have obviously changed over the course of the past 11 months, but I think that that word means more than what it did before. Not only does, what does kindness mean to you in 2021, but what does kindness mean to you now and moving forth forever from here? Kind of taking a look at everything from the past 11 months. What does kindness mean to you? And what does it mean to us as a planet, as a collective, moving forth beyond 2021 and beyond?
Oh, that is such a good question. I need to think about that for a second. I think kindness is something that we share. I think it's something that it's looking at people and kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like I said before, it doesn't mean not having any boundaries. I think that's important. I think when we have boundaries, it helps protect us and it helps keep us safe. But it's looking to make sure that we are opening ourselves up to other people who are different than us, or people who make different choices than us, and seeing the value that we all have as fellow humans, that understanding that everyone is valuable. And that's, I think, what it means to me.
And that's, thank you for sharing that as well too, because kindness it's something that it can also seem like a buzzworthy term, right? Like we hear these different things, like you see the little 30-second clip on the news, and this is how to share kindness. It's just like, this is what we know. This is who we are at our core. It's when there's the different distortions that try to prevent us from remembering who we are, that take us away from our purpose, take us away from our mission. And it's just, there's so many different ways that we can be kind. I think this is a great, beginning of one of the closing questions that I wanted to ask is, what do you feel are a few, I always like giving practical information for our listeners and viewers and our friends and neighbors. What are some real simplistic, healthy ways in which we can be kinder to ourselves? And then also that same question, kindness towards other people. What are a couple of things that come to mind for you, Apryl?
Well, I think that's really important because I do feel like it is important to be kind to ourselves, because if we don't fill up that well, and if we give and give and give, then we're not going to have anything left to give. So taking care of yourself is a really important step in being kind. So there's this happiness researcher. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Dunn, and she was talking about how we can share kindness in ways that will make us feel happy. Of course, you just want to be kind in general, but she has studied how we can really make that impactful, and something that's impactful for us and for the kids in our lives. And there's three things she said: connection, impact, and choice. So if you just need like an extra boost of kindness, those are the three things you should focus on. How can I help someone that I feel a connection with, even if you don't know them? But if there's like the animal shelter, or like the women's shelter, like what thing do you feel like you want to help with? And then she said, if you can see the impact of what you've done, that it helps you feel like the effort you've put in has been worthy. And then choice. People want a choice. So if we're trying to give these opportunities to our kids, if they have a choice, it'll mean so much more to them than if we volunteer them what they're doing. So when they actually volunteer and they're not voluntold, I think that's really powerful.
I like that. Voluntold versus volunteer. And again, we're able to see the fruits of the labor that we're putting out, right? Kindness. I love reinforcing this, not only for myself, but gently sharing it with other people. It's the fact that it can make so much of an impact. People use the term, it's probably cliche, but like the ripple effect of kindness, right? Something such as holding the door open for someone, right? You don't necessarily know what that person has gone through. And I think we've lived in this society, it seems like, for a long period of time, where it's this reactive, something is placed at, how are you going to react? And it's a matter of, how do you choose to respond versus how you choose to react in the process. And I also wanted to share, before we begin to officially close down our time here, my favorite, not only illustration, but also passage from the book. And it's when, Bear is moving through some fear and insecurity, and Coco says it's okay to be scared, so long as you don't let the scariness stop you from shining kindness and bringing light. And I think that's another thing to be able to mention here today during our time, Apryl, because, not even just there's people that, might be feeling challenged. It's normal when you're moving forth in the next steps of your purpose and your mission. You can have those fears and insecurities and doubts, and, you can be in your head and not in your heart. And I think it's, I just get this beautiful visual that, like, when Bear was looking at Coco, when she said that, it's like Bear went from his head to his heart. And that's how the story had this super duper happy ending in the process. What do you feel, between kids and parents and educators, what are some of the takeaways that you hope that little ones, parents, and educators, that they take away after reading and enjoying your book one time or several times over? What would be some of those things that you'd like to mention?
Well, I hope that they know that we don't, I mean, it's impossible for any of us to solve all the injustice or all the sad things in the world, but that doesn't mean that even a child can't do something good and be like a powerful force for good. And, of course, not every action that we take is going to be, it's kind of like in the book, they were trying to be very intentional and very planned and thought about their kindness. And sometimes that works out. Sometimes that's great. But sometimes, like you said, it's just the small things, just like the simple acts of kindness that present themselves in the day. Like, when you're driving and you let someone over, or, making sure you stop at the crosswalk so that the person can cross the crosswalk. Sometimes it's just little, those are two driving examples. I don't get out of my car much. We're not getting out of our house or our car much. But, it's little things like that come up. And I hope that they know, just because it can the injustice and sad things in the world can seem really overwhelming, that doesn't mean that we all can't still keep trying to do our best. I hope that comes through.
I think that's really all we can do at the end of the day is to just do our best and trust the fact that, we're stepping into a, beautiful time where there's a lot of blessings and miracles that are happening in our lives and in the lives of our fellow friends and neighbors. And, talking about one of our favorite neighbors, one of my favorite segments here on the Children's Book Spotlight series, we get a little tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers, of course, the beloved host of the long-running children's television program on PBS, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He encouraged us at different points in time when he walked this earthly plane, and he did this in several of his commencement speeches. Most notably, he did this when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys. He encouraged all of us, and he always kept the time, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute, to remember those who helped love us into being. And that was Mr. Rogers' way of saying, there were people that believed in you that maybe were there in your life when you didn't necessarily believe in yourself. I use the term earthing, as I know that was coined years ago by Doreen Virtue. Who would be some of the people that you would like to recognize here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, episode number 105? Some of the people that helped love you into being, whether it be early on growing up or just as recently as today, that you would like to publicly mention and thank.
I love that question, and I love Mr. Rogers. He was amazing.
On so many levels, yes.
I would really like to thank Catherine, my editor. She's amazing. She's so great. Because I mean, none of this would have happened without her. When I found out that I was lucky enough to be on the New York Times bestseller list, I was like, this was because of you, because she's great. Also, my agent Maggie has been just wonderful. I had really, well, I mean, starting from home, my parents were really supportive. My mom loved books, and my dad was an artist, so they were really supportive and encouraging. I had so many wonderful teachers. I wish I could list them all, but some of the ones that stick out the most are my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Blagden. She was just an angel. I had an art teacher named Mrs. Pearl when I was growing up, and I used to wear the same outfit to my art class every week, and the kids thought I only had one outfit. That was my most creative outfit, and it was my art outfit, but I loved Mrs. Pearl's art classes. Patty Amelot was my music teacher in high school, and I know that's not art, but she really helped nurture my spirit so much.
Yeah.
And then I had great professors in college. Richard Hull and Robert Barrett were amazing. And my SCBWI mentor, Hazel Mitchell, she's just really helped me get that last push that I needed to accomplish this goal. So, and I mean, more people, I mean, so many good friends, my own family, my husband, I forgot him. Sorry, Colby. My husband and my girls, who gave me so many opportunities to understand and remember what it's like to be a kid, and how life can be. There are a lot of really big feelings when you are a small person, and they can be hard to navigate sometimes, but I'm really grateful for the honor that I've had to be their mom. And my friends, I have awesome friends. So I'm not even going to start listing them because
it sounds like you've had one of my favorite words in 2021 is copious. You have copious amounts of people that are in your life and on your path that have loved you into being and continue to help love you into being. And one of the beautiful ways we like to close out our program is with another segment, right after giving a little tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers. We have a little tip of the cap to, and if you're wondering, Jonathan, do you have a genie lamp in your office? The answer is yes. I don't carry it with me everywhere I go. Might be a little clunky, but I do have this here in my office. It's time, of course, for 3 wishes. We're here at Empowered Publicity and the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We really do our part to remind people that we all have heartfelt dreams, desires, wishes, and goals. And one of the things that we're able to do as the result of being kind to other people and holding space for them is that we can help them bring to form and shape their heartfelt goals and dreams and desires and wishes. And you have been doing such an amazing job just with this book, but even before that, through your entire life, you've given to your family, you've given to children across the country, around the world, parents, families, educators, you name it. So you're being given 3 wishes, April. So it's interesting because I always, sometimes I get to this particular point in time of the interview, and like the author that I'm interviewing, the illustrator that I'm interviewing, just thinks that it's an interview, and it's like, wow, I get 3 wishes on top of that, like hot diggity darn, right? So it's interesting because sometimes if an author's in the program, they might be like, well, if I could crack the New York Times bestseller list, you've already done that, which is just like, that could be like a 4th wish that's already happened, so to speak. So with that being said, what would be your wishes that you would like to put out for yourself, for your family, for the planet? What would those be?
I think I want to make my 3 wishes for everyone, but also, for all of us, but also for kids. And I think the first is I want them to understand that they are super valuable, and that even though they are, they may feel small in this world, we all feel small sometimes, but them especially physically are small, they still are really powerful, and they can do some good things, and they can make a big difference. So I want them to understand that. That's my first wish. My second is I wish we made education more of a priority. We're lucky to have some good schools in our neighborhood, but I want like every kid in the world to have these same opportunities. And I want us to fund education like 5 times more than we're funding it. I think that's a great wish. um, and then I think my third wish is I want kids to know that they can ask for help, and if there's something that's too big for them to handle on their own, that they can find someone. I wish that they can find someone to help them, whether it's like something with their mental health, or something big that's happening. I just want them to know that there's people out there to help them, and so my wish is they can connect with those people that can help them.
Well, you're very much doing your part to be able to help kids in the way in which you're doing right now. I'm so happy for you, April, because it's very like, if I may share, it's nice to talk to a fellow empath, and it's very easy when we have those successes. Like, we can easily get to our head. You could easily be like, I'm Apryl Stott, New York Times best-selling author, illustrator. Look at me, look at me, look at me, pomp and circumstance, bells and whistles, and you're remaining in your heart. And I think, authors will always ask me, like, what's the key to longevity? What's the key to success? I don't necessarily have, the golden answer, but I do believe that staying in alignment and coming from your heart are the driving forces. Whether you're a children's author, an illustrator, a teacher, a parent, you're a sanitation worker, it doesn't matter what your trade is, what your skill is, what your career is, what your job is. It's so important to stay in your heart and to stay aligned, so that when those great things happen, it's like you're able to just, remain very humble, very grateful, very appreciative, and still be able to give back more in the process. Again, you can continue this wonderful interaction with April by staying connected with her via her social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram, the links we have below, along with staying connected with April via her official website, where you can purchase your copy of Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. You can head on over to aprilstottdesign.com. You can also head on over to amazon.com. While there, leave your 5-star review for Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. And again, a special thanks as well. The team at Simon Kids do such an amazing job in putting out some of the most vibrant, colorful, fun, energetic, amazing, and heart-centered children's books for little ones and for the inner child within us all. Want to give a little bit of a recognition to our friends and neighbors at Simon Kids. This has been such a wonderful Trolley Stop. Raise your hand if you've loved episode number 105 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. There is so much more to come throughout 2021. Again, if this message has helped you, if it's inspired you, if it's brought some healing into your heart, if someone that you know is going through a little bit of a challenging time, and you need to, and you're feeling called to be kind to them, to remind them to reconnect to their inner light. If you feel that it needs to be shared with someone in need, episode number 105 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, and April's brand new New York Times bestselling children's book, Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. You can subscribe to Empowered Publicity's official YouTube channel if you have already not had the chance to do so, and to share this wonderful and magical trolley stop on your favorite social media platforms of choice. If you are a children's author, if you are a children's illustrator, and you would like to share your inspiring story and the release of your brand new children's book here on the Children's Book Spotlight series, you can connect with us here at empoweredpublicity.com or any of our social media platforms that you see on screen. If you are a children's author or a children's illustrator and you would like to take part in the brand new season of the Storytime with Mr. Jonathan, I always get goosebumps talking about that as well too. If you would like for us to be able to share your brand new children's book on the all new season of Storytime with Mr. Jonathan, again, you can connect with us via our official website, empoweredpublicity.com, or any of our social media platforms on screen. We are super excited to continue our work together with our newest friends and neighbors at CBS 8 and CW San Diego here in this beautiful city of San Diego. If you're a children's author and would like to have your brand new children's book be featured on the Empowering Reads for Kids on CW San Diego's CBS 8, you would, of course, like to join the Empowered Publicity family, you know where to connect with us at empoweredpublicity.com and any of our social media platforms that you see on screen. And of course, if you are not only a children's author, but if you're an inspirational or a spiritual author and you would like to learn more information about Empowered Publicity here at PR from the Heart and how we can be of service to you, you can schedule your courtesy discovery call by heading onto our official website at empoweredpublicity.com and see how we can be of service to you. One final time, the brand new New York Times bestselling release, Share Some Kindness, Bring Some Light. It is now available courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Simon Kids. Of course, amazing children's author and illustrator, our featured guest here in episode number 105 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, Apryl Stott. We encourage you, especially if you are an adult and you're doing your part, to really spend some time with your inner child. This is a wonderful book for you in the process. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of Empowered Publicity. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight series. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. So this has been episode number 105 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. I hear the trolley. That means it's time to wind things down. And of course, as we conclude this trolley stop, this brand new episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series, let us remember our dear friend and neighbor, Mr. Rogers. He encouraged us for many years, and he's still doing this from the other side. He's reminding all of us that we're perfect, we're whole, we're healthy, we're complete, that we're loved, that we're special just the way that we are, that I like you just the way that you are, he liked to say. Well, we like to say here at the Children's Book Spotlight series 243, which means that we love you. With Apryl being very kind to lend us some of her time here this week, we're reminding us that we love you. Share some kindness, bring some light, and thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. We'll see all of you back next week for episode number 106 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. For Apryl Stott, for myself, Jonathan Masiulionis, thank you once again for helping us to walk home the children of the world.